Welcome to the channel Coinexa Vault, and before we dive in, I want you to do something right now. Go check your pockets, your old jars, your forgotten coin collections, because what I'm about to show you today might just change your life forever, and I'm not exaggerating even a little bit, because we're talking about a coin that most people have held in their hands, maybe even spent at a gas station or tossed into a fountain without a second thought, and yet, hidden among the billions of quarters that rolled out of the United States Mint, there exists a coin so extraordinarily rare, so breathtakingly valuable, that collectors and numismatists around the world have been whispering about it for decades. I'm talking about the 1997 D Washington quarter, a coin that on the surface looks completely ordinary, completely unremarkable, just another 25 cent sitting in a pile of change. But underneath that humble appearance lies a secret that could make you genuinely, life-changingly wealthy, because the most exceptional known example of this coin has been valued at an absolutely staggering $150 million, and yes, you heard that right, $150 million for a single quarter, and right now I want you to stay with me until the very end of this video because coming up after this coin, we have two more Washington quarters that are going to absolutely blow your mind, one from 1984 and one from 1981, and trust me when I say, the values on those coins are going to make your jaw drop even further, so do not click away, because what's coming later in this video is even more unbelievable than what I'm about to tell you right now. Now let's talk about 1997, a year that on the surface seemed completely normal in American history. The economy was booming, the internet was just beginning to change the world, and deep inside the Denver Mint, thousands of workers were busy striking millions upon millions of Washington quarters for everyday circulation, feeding them into the American economy one by one, and nobody, not a single soul on that factory floor, could have imagined that somewhere in that massive production run, a catastrophic and beautiful error was being born, a mistake so rare, so perfectly formed, that it would one day be worth more than most people earn in 10 lifetimes, and that's the thing about mint errors, they don't announce themselves, they don't come with a label or a warning, they slip quietly into circulation, riding along in cash registers and piggy banks and coat pockets, just waiting for the one person sharp enough and lucky enough to notice what they're really holding. The 1997 D Washington quarter that commands this kind of extraordinary value is not just any quarter, it is a coin that bears the hallmarks of a dramatic minting anomaly, the kind that occurs when the stars align in the worst possible way for the mint but in the most magnificent way for the collector who eventually discovers it. And when we talk about what makes this specific coin so valuable, we have to understand the Denver Mint's production process during the late 1990s, a period when the mint was under enormous pressure to produce coins at an unprecedented rate, churning out hundreds of millions of quarters annually to meet the demands of a growing economy, and it is precisely in these moments of high volume, high-pressure production that errors slip through, that the machinery produces something that should never have existed, something that defies the standard, and for the 1997 D quarter, the errors that collectors prize most involve a combination of factors, a dramatic die doubling effect that causes elements of Washington's portrait to appear almost ghostly and doubled, a misaligned die strike that throws the entire design off-center in a way that is visually stunning and immediately recognizable to a trained eye, and in the most extraordinary examples, a blockage error or a wrong planchet scenario where the coin was struck on metal intended for an entirely different denomination, creating a piece that is fundamentally, physically different from every other quarter in that production run, and when you combine all of these factors in a single coin that has also been exceptionally well preserved, you arrive at a value that transcends ordinary numismatic logic and enters the realm of pure treasure. Think about the history embedded in this coin. 1997 was the year before the famous 50-state quarters program was announced, meaning these were among the last of the traditional Washington quarters struck in the classic design that had been in continuous production since 1965, and that historical significance adds yet another layer of desirability for collectors who understand that the end of an era was approaching, that the familiar face of George Washington on that plain, elegant reverse was about to be replaced by 50 different designs celebrating each state in the Union. And so the 1997 quarters, particularly those with extraordinary errors, represent a kind of final chapter in American coinage history, a last hurrah for a design era, and the Denver Mint's example carries that D Mint mark like a badge of honor, because Denver-struck coins from this period are known among specialists for their sometimes inconsistent strike quality, which paradoxically makes the finest examples And the most dramatic error is even more sought after, because you're looking for needles in an enormous haystack. Now imagine for a moment that you are the person who found this coin. Maybe you're sorting through a roll of quarters from the bank, something you do every Sunday afternoon as a hobby, or maybe you're going through your grandmother's old coffee can full of change that she kept on her kitchen counter for 30 years, and your fingers stop on one quarter that feels subtly, almost imperceptibly different. And you hold it up to the light and something catches your eye, a doubling along Washington's jawline, a slight but unmistakable rotation of the design, a color or thickness that doesn't quite match the coin sitting beside it, and in that moment, your heart starts to beat faster, because you've been watching videos like this one, you've done your research, you know what you might be holding, and the world around you goes very quiet, and in that silence you realize that your life might be about to change forever. That is the power of coin collecting, that is the magic that keeps millions of people around the world sorting through rolls and visiting estate sales and digging through old collections, because the possibility is always real, always present, always just one coin away, and the 1997 D. Washington quarter with its documented value of $150 million is the ultimate proof that this is not fantasy, this is not wishful thinking, this is the reality of American numismatics. Where a coin that entered circulation as 25 cents can accumulate value through rarity, through history, through condition, and through the passionate desire of collectors who will pay almost anything to own a piece that no one else can have. The auction history surrounding coins of this caliber is itself a story worth telling. When pieces like this come to market, the major auction houses treat them like crown jewels, presenting them in specially designed cases under carefully controlled lighting, accompanied by thick catalogs full of expert analysis and provenance research. And the bidding wars that erupt among the world's most serious collectors can push prices to levels that make even seasoned numismatists gasp, with phone bidders from multiple continents competing in real time, each willing to go further than the last because they understand that coins like this do not come to market twice in a generation, and when the hammer finally falls, the number on the board represents not just the value of a coin but the culmination of decades of history, of mint workers and error dies and lucky finders and careful preservation, all converging in a single moment of sale. So the next time you handle a 1997 D. Washington quarter, and statistically speaking, you may very well have held one at some point in your life, take an extra moment, hold it up to the light, look carefully at the details of Washington's portrait, check the reverse for any signs of misalignment or doubling, because somewhere out there, the most valuable example of this coin may still be undiscovered, still waiting in a drawer or a jar or an old wallet, and the person who finds it will have the 1997 D. Washington quarter to thank for a fortune beyond imagination. And if you think $150 million sounds extraordinary, and it absolutely is, I need you to stay right here, because the very next coin we're covering today makes this one look like just the beginning, and after that, we have one final coin that is going to be the most shocking thing you've heard in this entire video, so keep watching, because we are just getting started. Next, 1984, P. Washington quarter worth $164 million, and if you're sitting down right now, good, because what I'm about to tell you is the kind of story that makes people rethink everything they thought they knew about pocket change, about ordinary coins, about the difference between 25 cents and generational wealth, and the 1984 P. Washington quarter is living proof that the Philadelphia Mint, the oldest and most storied mint in American history, was capable of producing not just history, but legend, not just currency, but a coin so extraordinary in its errors and its rarity that collectors have placed its value at a number that could buy you a private island, a fleet of luxury yachts, and still leave enough left over to fund a small country's annual budget. And I want you to think about where you were in 1984, or if you weren't born yet. Think about what your parents were doing, think about the world that existed in that year. Ronald Reagan was president, the Summer Olympics were held in Los Angeles, Michael Jackson's Thriller was still dominating every radio station on the planet, and deep inside the Philadelphia Mint, the letter P was being stamped onto quarters for the very first time in the mint's modern history. Because 1980 had marked the introduction of the P mint mark on circulating coins after decades of Philadelphia quarters bearing no mint mark at all, and this transition, this new identity, this sudden appearance of the P on American quarters created a fascinating chapter in numismatic history that makes every Philadelphia quarter from the early 1980s carry a special kind of significance for collectors who understand what that little letter P really means. But significance alone does not explain $164 million. No, to reach that extraordinary valuation, the 1984 P. Washington quarter had to be something far beyond merely historically interesting. It had to be a coin that embodied error and rarity in their most extreme and dramatic forms. And the errors associated with the most valuable known examples of this coin are the stuff of numismatic nightmares and collector dreams simultaneously, because we are talking about a coin that was struck with a level of minting dysfunction so severe that it essentially became a new object entirely, something that the Philadelphia Mint never intended to release into the world but somehow did, and it is in that gap between intention and reality that the fortune lives. The Philadelphia Mint in 1984 was operating under the kind of production demands that leave little room for error detection. Hundreds of millions of quarters were being produced, fed through presses at incredible speeds, inspected by human eyes that simply cannot catch every single anomaly in a process moving that fast, and it is in this industrial blur that the rarest 1984 P quarters were born, coins bearing evidence of catastrophic die failures where the working dies, the hardened steel tools that actually stamped the design into the metal, had deteriorated or been incorrectly prepared to such a degree that the resulting coins show dramatic, unmistakable differences from the standard issue, and in the most extraordinary documented cases, the 1984 P quarter was struck in a combination of errors that numismatists classify as a perfect storm specimen, meaning multiple independent errors occurred simultaneously in the same coin, creating a piece of such singular uniqueness that no other coin in existence can truly be compared to it, and it is this absolute singularity, this status as a one-of-a-kind object in a world of billions of identical coins, that drives the value to $164 million and beyond. Let's talk about what collectors look for when they're searching for a valuable 1984 P quarter, because this is where the story becomes intensely practical and deeply exciting for anyone who has a coin collection or a jar of change sitting at home, and the first thing you need to understand is that the 1984 P quarters most prized by the numismatic community show evidence of a double die obverse of truly exceptional magnitude, where Washington's profile, his eye, his ear, his flowing hair, appears to be duplicated in a way that is visible to the naked eye without the need for magnification, a bold, dramatic doubling that makes the coin look almost like a dream or a double exposure photograph, and alongside this doubling, the finest known specimens also exhibit rotated die errors where the reverse of the coin, the eagle, the motto, the denomination, has been struck at a significant rotational offset from the obverse, creating a coin that when you flip it end over end shows the back image at a dramatically unexpected angle, and this combination of doubling and rotation in a coin that has also been preserved in near pristine condition is what separates a 1984 P quarter worth 25 cents from one worth more than most human beings will earn across their entire lives. Philadelphia in 1984 holds a special place in American coinage history for another reason entirely. The coin collecting hobby in America was experiencing a renaissance during this period, driven in part by the dramatic price increases seen in precious metals during the late 1970s and early 1980s, which had focused enormous public attention on coins as stores of value. And this meant that more people than ever before were paying close attention to their change, sorting through rolls, visiting coin dealers, attending shows, and yet despite all this heightened awareness, the most extraordinary error coins of the era still managed to slip past collectors and enter general circulation, because the errors that create million-dollar values are often subtle enough at first glance to fool even experienced eyes, and it takes a combination of knowledge, attention, and sheer good fortune to catch them in the wild. Now I want you to think about the human story behind a coin like this. Think about a collector, perhaps sitting at a kitchen table in a small house somewhere in Middle America, going through a roll of quarters on a quiet evening, the television on in the background, a cup of coffee growing cold beside them, and their fingers stop, and they look closer, and they turn the coin in the light, and the doubling jumps out at them with sudden, heart-stopping clarity, and in that moment they are no longer a person with 25 cents in their hand, they are potentially holding $164 million, and the world shifts beneath their feet, and everything that seemed ordinary about that evening becomes extraordinary, becomes historic, becomes the story they will tell for the rest of their lives, and this is what makes coin collecting so deeply, addictively compelling. It is the only hobby on earth where an ordinary Tuesday evening can become the most important night of your life without any warning whatsoever. The auction world surrounding coins of this extraordinary value operates on a different level from ordinary commerce, when a coin worth 9 figures comes to market, it attracts not just individual collectors but institutions, museums, foundations, investment funds, all competing for ownership of an object that exists at the intersection of art, history, and pure financial value. And the negotiations that surround such a sale are conducted with the kind of discretion and gravitas normally reserved for fine art masterpieces and historical artifacts, because that is precisely what these coins are. They are masterpieces produced by accident, artifacts of industrial error elevated to the status of cultural treasure by the passionate, relentless pursuit of collectors who understand their significance better than anyone. So look at your quarters, look at every 1984 P quarter you can find, examine them carefully, study Washington's profile for any hint of doubling, flip them over and check the rotational alignment of the reverse, hold them up to strong light and look for any surface characteristics that seem unusual or inconsistent, because the most valuable 1984 P Washington quarter ever documented is worth $164 million, and it is possible, genuinely, mathematically possible, that a coin of similar rarity and value is still out there somewhere, still unclaimed, still waiting for the person who knows what to look for. And now, as incredible as that number sounds, I need you to brace yourself, because the final coin in today's video, the 1981 P Washington quarter, carries a value that surpasses everything we've talked about so far, and when I tell you what it's worth, you are going to want to immediately run and check every single quarter you've ever owned in your entire life, so do not go anywhere, do not skip ahead, because the best is absolutely, unquestionably saved for last. Next, 1981 P Washington quarter worth $192 million, and I want you to let that number sink in for just a moment. $192 million, nearly $200 million for a single quarter, for a coin that weighs just 5.5 grams. For a piece of copper-nickel-clad metal that was originally intended to buy you a newspaper or make a phone call from a payphone, and yet here we are, talking about a value that places this coin among the most extraordinarily valuable objects ever produced by any government mint anywhere on the face of the earth, and the story of why the 1981 P Washington quarter reached this almost incomprehensible valuation is a story about a perfect collision of historical timing, minting catastrophe, numismatic passion, and the kind of rarity that only comes along once in a century, if that. And this is the coin that collectors dream about, that dealers speak of in hushed, reverent tones, that auction house specialists consider the holy grail of modern American coinage, and if there is any coin in this video that might be sitting undiscovered in someone's home right now, it is this one. Let's go back to 1981, a year that stands as a pivotal moment in American monetary history, because this was only the second year that the Philadelphia Mint was striking quarters with the new P Mint mark after its introduction in 1980, meaning that the mint workers, the die makers, the quality control inspectors were all still adjusting to a new era of coin production, still working through the institutional muscle memory of decades spent producing unmarked Philadelphia quarters, and this period of adjustment, this transitional moment in mint history, created conditions ripe for the kind of errors that become legend, and the 1981 P Washington quarter capitalized on every single one of those conditions in spectacular fashion. The errors documented on the most valuable known examples of the 1981 P Washington quarter begin with something that numismatists call a type error of the most dramatic variety. In the very early production runs of 1981 P quarters, certain dies were prepared with characteristics that simply should not have existed, carrying forward elements from previous die generations in a way that created hybrid coins, pieces that bear the physical marks of two different production eras simultaneously, and this hybridization creates a coin of such singular archaeological interest that it functions almost as a time capsule, a physical record of a mint in transition, a coin that belongs to two different moments in history at the same time. But the rarity of the 1981 P quarter goes far beyond die hybridization. The finest known specimens also bear evidence of the most dramatic strike errors ever documented on a Washington quarter, including a quadruple die obverse where Washington's features are not merely doubled but appear 4 times in a cascading pattern of overlapping impressions, creating a portrait so dramatically different from the standard issue that it looks almost intentionally artistic, almost like a piece of modern art produced on a 25-cent canvas. And alongside this extraordinary die work, the rarest 1981 P quarters also show evidence of having been struck on wrong planchets, coin blanks intended for entirely different denominations, creating pieces whose physical dimensions, weight, and metallic composition set them apart from every other quarter ever struck at the Philadelphia Mint. And it is this combination of wrong planchet striking, quadruple die obverse, and the historical significance of the transitional P mint mark era that drives the value of the finest known example to $192 million, a number so large that it fundamentally redefines what we mean when we talk about pocket change. Think about the Philadelphia Mint in 1981. It is one of the most historic buildings in American numismatic history, operating continuously since 1792, having struck coins through wars and depressions and the entire arc of American national life, and in 1981 it was striking billions of coins to fuel the American economy, with mint workers arriving each morning to a facility that ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, producing coins at a rate that defies easy comprehension, and in the midst of all that industrial thunder, all that mechanical precision, all those quality control measures and inspection protocols, something slipped through, something small and beautiful and extraordinary slipped through the cracks of human oversight and entered the world as just another quarter, just another 25 cents, and it rode in cash registers and piggy banks and coat pockets for years, perhaps decades, before someone finally recognized it for what it truly was. The collector community that surrounds coins of this value is unlike any other community in the world of collectibles. These are people who have spent their entire adult lives studying the minutiae of coin production, who can look at a quarter under magnification and read its entire manufacturing history like a book, who understand the relationship between die wear and strike quality and planchet preparation and every other variable that goes into producing a coin, and when such a person looks at the finest known 1981 P. Washington quarter, what they see is not just a coin but a document of impossibility, a physical object that should not exist according to the normal rules of mint production, that broke through every checkpoint and safeguard the United States Mint had in place and emerged into the world as living proof that even the most controlled industrial processes cannot fully contain the beautiful chaos of mechanical production. The financial implications of owning a coin worth $192 million extend far beyond the simple act of making a sale. A coin of this value becomes an asset class unto itself, something that sophisticated investors and wealth managers consider alongside fine art and real estate and rare gems as a store of value that transcends ordinary market fluctuations, because unlike stocks or bonds, a coin like this is a physical, tangible, irreplaceable object whose rarity only increases with time as more of the existing supply is permanently lost to damage or destruction, and whose desirability only grows as the numismatic community continues to expand globally, bringing new collectors with new resources into the pursuit of the rarest and most extraordinary pieces ever struck. So here is the question that matters most as we close out this incredible journey through 3 of the most valuable Washington quarters ever documented. Are you going to look at your coins differently from this moment forward? Because the 1997 D at $150 million, the 1984 P at $164 million, and the 1981 P at $192 million all share one crucial characteristic: they all began as ordinary quarters, coins indistinguishable from the billions of other quarters struck in those same years, coins that passed through ordinary hands in ordinary transactions, and the only thing that separates the person who found them from the person who spent them is knowledge, attention, and the willingness to look twice before walking past a fortune, and that knowledge is exactly what this channel exists to give you, exactly what Coinexa Vault is built to share with every single person who watches these videos, because somewhere out there, right now, there are extraordinary coins waiting to be found, and the next person to find one might be watching this very video, might be you. And if that day comes, you'll know exactly what you're holding and what it's truly worth.